Hi, it's Allie Jordan. Welcome to Secrets to Scale, our look at strategies to help independent RIAs drive growth. My guest today is Clint Sorenson, co-founder and partner of WealthShield Investments. WealthShield was created to put investments back into Investment Advisor. Thanks for joining me, Clint.
Thanks, Allie, for having me.
So when I look back over the past 5 years, which is crazy that it's been 5 years, one of the things I'm most proud of is our partnership with WealthShield and what we've built together in the partnership and the relationships that we've made. I think back to when we were strategizing about building our businesses and the ideas we had for RIAs to help them really drive growth, and being able to actually see that accomplished with the partner firms that we work with over the past 5 years has been super fun. So thank you for being a part of that, for being our first client, and for joining me here today.
Oh, thank you for being a partner. I'll never forget those times in the hotel there in Dallas, wherever we were at, planning this whole thing. It was incredible. It's been fun.
I know. I remember it vividly, and it feels like yesterday.
It does. When you said 5 years, I was like, wow, I cannot believe it.
I know. So today I'm really excited for our partner firms that don't work with WealthShield, and then also just for RIAs and advisors out there to learn a little bit more about what you guys do with advisors. So can you talk about, the premise of why you started WealthShield and what you really mean by putting investments back into Investment Advisor?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we started the business as, similarly with LibertyFi, right? At the same time. And we were witnessing this huge independence trend. What we see in a lot of other industries, right? Decentralization, moving away from big firms, people hanging their own shingle, moving to independence. And that was because technology was available that had powered these large firms, was now available at a cost point that an independent advisor could use. And we were in the midst of this whole transition, and we were also in the midst of a change with the DOL ruling and the fiduciary standard and this whole movement, right? And obviously that wasn't going to slow down. And so we kind of had this opinion that advisors are going to continue to move independence. And as they do that, they leave a lot of services they may or may not take for granted at these big firms. And one of those is investment management, which just happened to be where myself and our team's talents were, right? We were either CFAs, CMTs, or something else in the investment space. So we saw this opportunity where we had a big growing demand, right? Advisors going independent, wanting to run their business, but also needing the support they were possibly leaving behind at the wirehouses or the larger, more centralized firms. So the idea was, hey, let's build a firm that helps drive the maximum positive impact on the end client, right? Touches the end client. But we do it through the financial advisor, who we still believe in. We still believe is an important role in a person's life from a financial perspective. And so when we saw that, we said, hey, we're going to do that. And what we saw too in the trend is when advisors were leaving those services behind, they really were kind of taking a step back in terms of the offering to the end client. It was either going, 100% passive, not a lot of complexity. Not that there's anything wrong with passive investing or models, but it's not always a right fit for every client. And we were losing customization because a person had to run their business. And so that's what we meant. We wanted to create the investment side of the business and treat it like a real business and staff it with our team and consult the advisor and help them grow and scale and still be able to offer that, that customized approach to the end client. And that's why our partnership with you is so important, because we couldn't customize at scale without a technology solution that had that built into it. And you were the experts at that.
Right. And I think having a first row seat to what you guys have been able to do and how you support the financial advisor has been really eye-opening, because you take a completely different approach to where you want them to be a part of it. You're not coming in and taking away from what they're doing, because we know advisors, they like to be involved in that process. And so you're really taking the WealthShield, your background, your philosophy, the technical side of it, what you believe in from an investment process, but then adding in what the advisor, their layer as well. So being able to kind of give them that customized scale where they really feel a part of they're doing what's in the best interest of their clients, because they know the client. So I think that combination has just been why it's been so successful.
Yeah. And I think that's where the industry is missing. We still believe it, right? I mean, we're still preaching that message, where we thought that most of the people in our space, which we feel we kind of created a category. We're called OCIOs. That's not really what we are, right? But,
Right.
none of the people really outsource all their investments to us, and nor do we want them to. We're really an investment consultant, right? Where we help them build a business around their investment approach, right? And then yes, we can develop strategies, help them with the technical aspects of it, but that's not the core focus. So we kind of felt like we created a category in the space. Still don't know what to call it, but we do preach one key thing. And I think this is the difference maker. And this is why I think we've had success and will continue to have success. And that is the client's the benchmark. And most of the firms that come out and say, hey, outsource your money management to me, I don't see how that's possible without understanding the client. And so we think that collaboration with the advisor is critical. It's table stakes. If we don't have that, then we can't understand the client. We don't have that communication to understand the client's intricacies, their behavioral profile, anything that may affect the way they react to a certain investment portfolio or the events happening in their lives. We can't manage the money or help the advisor implement a strategy for that client without that knowledge. And so I don't know how firms take money in from people they don't know based on a risk profile and manage the whole thing without understanding the client. And I think that the advisor is in the perfect seat to do that. And that's why we choose to work through advisors.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been on a lot of calls and a lot of meetings with you and your team, and never once have led with any sort of product conversation. That client is the benchmark, and the behavioral side is what I think sets you guys apart. So talk a little bit about just that process of how, because, when you think about an advisor that you're starting to work with, they have hundreds of clients. How do they go through that behavioral strategy with you to identify what those clients really are, and how you benchmark them to be able to move them into the appropriate strategies that you've created with those advisors?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. So we always start first and try to understand the advisor's business. Our consulting process always starts that way, right? What's your client experience like? What are they used to? What do they like, not like? Describe them, learn the demographic. Are they ultra high net worth, a mix of a bunch? And we segment the business with the advisor. So it's almost like practice management for the first couple of weeks, because all we're doing is trying to get a good understanding of who the client is, what their experience is like, what the advisor's like, what they believe in, don't believe in, what they use currently. And we're trying to get gather this information to kind of do an internal SWOT and segmentation of their business so that we can give them actionable advice. And then once we know that, we say, hey, the goal here is to build a moat around those A clients, right? So, make sure that those strategies are differentiated, make sure that they're highly custom, right? Leverage tools and resources to create an even better client experience here. And then we leverage models, which we'll build with the advisor's input, whether it be, my favorite, models and UMAs, right? So sleeve of sleeve approach. But essentially, we'll do more of the risk and behavior-based modeling for the B and C client. Every client goes through the behavioral profile that you mentioned, and that's really an understanding of the advisor, helping us, figure out whether they're more emotional. It's a spectrum, right? You're either more emotional about money, or you're more logical about money, or you're more risk averse or more return seeking. And so on this spectrum, we want to understand what pole you kind of lie closer to. Is it the risk aversion and the emotional side? Then we kind of understand how to tilt portfolios, build something that doesn't have a lot of change in it, keep it more strategic, right? Manage loss aversion. There's a lot of behavioral biases we know that we have to cater to, make the portfolio more home biased. And so we'll work with the advisor to help them understand kind of what works in these different regimes, because there's really only 4 categories. And once they understand that, then we can kind of build their B and C client models, and we can build their A client kind of strategies and large case designs around that profile. So that's really helpful. And it changes too. It's not always one client can start off emotional, and then once they get comfortable with the advisor, move more logical. They need to be adjusted just like anything else. It's dynamic, but that's how we incorporate it. It's business segmentation, internal SWOT by our end, collaboration with the advisor to understand who the client is, and to build kind of the investment portfolios that are more suited for their behavior type, and as well as the client or the advisor's behavior type. And then we go through our implementation process.
Yeah, the advisor's behavior type is just as important to understand as we start that process together.
And they're mostly, and I love advisors, right? But think about how hard their job is. They're going to be a little more emotional because they're getting called. They got their ticker, hopefully they're not looking at their screen every day and watching the Christmas tree lights or whatever. But if they are, think about that on a bad day. Then you've got that compounded with stress among other advisors in your network, and you've got CNBC on the background, you're hearing that nonsense, and then you're on the phone with clients who are upset and nervous. There is no way an advisor without incredible intestinal fortitude can sit there and handle that amount of stress without having an emotional response. And so that's why we believe strongly in rules-based portfolios and implementing technology and removing discretionary decisions, right? Keeping it all as rules-based as possible. Because that's hard for I couldn't do it. That's hard for anybody to do.
I completely agree. And I think, to your point of having the technology there, that customized scale that it gives you, especially when we're thinking about a UMA, is really key to that, and the rules based, where you aren't trying to go in and out of the market, as you're getting those calls. As we all know, that's detrimental to the end client. So
that's right. There's a reason why on those Dalbar studies, right, the client underperforms what they're actually invested in by a wide margin. It's the behavior of the client and the advisor most of the time.
Right. Well, it kind of segues into two themes that I've watched you guys really embrace and kind of implement as a part of that. And those are direct indexing. So being able to really take advantage from a tax perspective. And again, kind of that customization of the client's portfolio, and then making sure that they have true alternatives as a part of their portfolio. Can you just touch on those two things and kind of some advice you have for advisors that aren't doing that today?
Yeah, I mean, the statistics are wild when you look at the percentage of investors in different wealth categories and how much they invest in funds and ETFs. And above 25 million, it's like 1% invest in ETFs and 0 invest in mutual funds. And that was from a family office survey by UBS. So when you think about that, that's pretty profound. And in between 5 and 25 million, I think the number was like 17% invest in ETFs and 1% invest in mutual funds. So the numbers go up the lower the investable balance, or the lower the asset level. So, we started adding advisors, and what we found is that the UMA technology coupled with direct indexing was really a tool, because of account minimums and the lack of fractional shares at the moment. They're more geared to larger account balances, but they're also geared for more complexity. And so we said, hey, wow, UMA is perfect tool for ultra high net worth clients, right? That have a lot of complexity, the need for customization. Not every client's going to look the same. And we'd have cases where people would come in with concentrated equity positions, right? And they would want to, balance that out, or they'd want to sell out of that over time into a more diversified portfolio. And they'd have to have tax management, set a tax budget. Direct indexing is a great tool for doing that, right? You get to say, hey, let's pick an index that fits with your overall goals and the overall allocation we've decided on with the advisor. Let's incorporate direct indexing to help with the tax overlay, so we can do an automated tax loss harvesting to build up a loss reserve so we can reduce a complex position. That's one case study. The other is to add like ESG, other overlays. You can add factor overlays. You can add like one of the ones we use, the dividend growth index that we built. We have all kinds of different constituent counts for that, for people they want to use it, right? And we've partnered with Morningstar recently with the wide moat. Wide moat's a great place to be, to have a good quality, high quality, large cap core. So sometimes it's just because the index is great and you don't want just exposure to the S&P 500. Other times it's more complex. You got to have tax overlay, factor overlay, ESG overlays because of the client need. But ultimately it comes down to one thing, and it's the customization aspect. So we started leveraging direct indexing really to be a difference maker for clients for our advisors, because you have to build a moat. Having individual positions, less funds and ETFs just gives that differentiation to the end client. It gives the better client optic, in our opinion. And in a lot of cases, you can reduce fees going into an SMA versus, say, a mutual fund. So that was a huge game changer. And then being able to combine that with more active strategies, tactical strategies, other pieces that fit with that client's goals, is why the UMA is so awesome. So that's where we started. Love that complexity. Alts, same deal, right? Allocating to true alts, all about the complexity. The ultra high net worth client needed a differentiated experience. You're competing against Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and all these people who tout access. And we needed to be able to help our advisors compete and win business against these big firms. And we were successful in doing that by making sure we added alts to the platform, did due diligence on alts, sourced them, We've spent a tremendous amount of time there and have had a lot of success. I mean, a lot of the funds we brought to the table have been stellar performers and helped diversify portfolios. So that was also due to complexity and, again, just how fast this area is growing. I mean, think about when we first got started, how just plain vanilla the firms we're bringing over, and now think about the sheer complexity we're dealing with. It's amazing and exciting. So that's essentially why we had to meet the demand of the client.
I couldn't agree more with you. And that's just over the past 5 years. I can't imagine what it's going to be over the next 5 years. And I just think whenever I listen to you talk, anytime, every time, it's always so impressive because you're really thinking about the client and how you guys can position the advisor to put them in the best spot to serve their clients. And so with these, as you said, when we started to where we are, always thinking about ways that we can help that advisor. And what you guys are doing, we need more Clints out there.
More Alex there. Yeah. That's right.
Well, this has been great. But the last question we ask all of our guests is, what is your number one tip for advisors looking to achieve scale?
Oh, it's the greatest time to be an advisor ever. I wish I was an advisor. And the reason why is because everybody's been in passive strategies. It was very much centralized. The ultra high net worth space was untouchable. Now, that's the area that's speaking with their feet. It has never been a better time to be an independent advisor. And I just think you got to do what you're best at. And in my opinion, if you're an advisor, you should be bringing in clients, being their family CFO, doing the planning, taking care of the intricate details that make that relationship so strong, and then outsource everything else. That is how you scale. Especially in this business. I love seeing all the different outsourced kind of businesses popping up. Number one, just because we're entrepreneurs, right? We believe in it. But number two, it just shows how fast this decentralization trend is happening in our industry. I mean, I would have never thought it would be to the level it is now. And I think it's only going to explode higher. And if you want to participate in it, it's a great way to build a business, become an entrepreneur, move from being a self-employed person in an independent BD or from an employee at a big firm. Jump on the decentralization wave and outsource everything that's non-differentiating and focus on the client experience. And I think you got a good shot at scaling and being successful.
That is spot on. And it's an exciting time to be where we are. Well, this was awesome as always. I know, I can't, it's kind of crazy that we're already at the end of it. It goes by fast, but one of the things I just want to make sure everyone out there knows, WealthShield puts out a ton of great content daily, weekly, and my favorite is the monthly market trend report. So if you are interested in what they're doing, you can sign up and subscribe for that, learn more about what they're up to, and Clint's and team's incredible insights to what's going on in our space and in the market. So Clint, thanks for joining me today. It has been awesome. And we will see everyone next time.
Thanks, Allie.